Okay, good. Good afternoon to those of you in Europe, and good morning to those of you on the West Coast of the United States. I'm really happy to be here today on the Packard Network and Packard Network Live. And I have a very special guest today that I'm going to tell everybody about here, Dr. Megan Rhodes. And she is joining us this morning from Mexico live. Dr. Rhodes has positively been impacting families and individuals as a psychotherapist since 2012. So about a decade. This is her decade anniversary of doing that. And she obtained a doctorate degree in clinical psychology in 2015 and embarked upon a cultural immersion journey in Mexico the same year. She completed her postdoctoral clinical hours in the Autism Spectrum Disorders Clinic at Kaiser Permanente in Rancho Cordova, California, and became a licensed psychologist in 2017. And she's been weathering a big part of the COVID-19 pandemic, actually in Morelos, Mexico, with her fiancé and two beautiful Italian Greyhounds. And Dr. Rhodes also became a TEDx speaker with her upbeat and informative presentation titled Jingle All the Way. I encourage everybody to separately watch that. And as she continues to empower her psychotherapy patients to take charge of their lives, she also enjoys an additional career focus, executive coaching. Okay, so she's focused on executive coaching with an emphasis on drastically improving sleep quality and duration. And I personally have picked up, she's in the midst of, doing a 90 days of 2 or 3 minute videos on how to improve your sleep patterns. And it's all there on her feed on LinkedIn. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, about how to access that here in a little while. But some terrific sleep tips that I personally have picked up since I've known Dr. Rhodes. And so we'll talk a bit more about what she does here as throughout, but I'll take a pause here. And Dr. Rhodes, welcome to the program. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Brett. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know I've been looking forward to this, so I'm just all smiles. I even curled my hair for you. That's how excited I am.
Well, your hair always looks wonderful anyway, but including today. So thank you very. We're really pleased to have you here. And I had some people in a couple of friends in Germany that are actually tuning into this live, and they were looking
Wonderful.
forward to it as well. And it's just been a great relationship that. We've met online, as you know, and it's been wonderful learning experience, I think, both ways for us. So it's really
Absolutely.
great to have you on board the program. And so tell us, why don't we start? Tell us a little bit about the Greyhounds.
Oh yeah, so they're actually let's see, they're my step Greyhounds. If you want to get technical about it. So my fiance has lived in Mexico City, Mexico, his whole life. And he actually rescued the daddy Greyhound from a very abusive situation. So he rescued that little guy and got him to the vet, nursed him back to health. His name is Gluck, which he tells me is German for luck. And so then Glucky found a girlfriend in the city, and then they had puppies, and now we have Fenrir, which is his son. So those are our two little Greyhounds that just they're happily snuggling under a blanket right now.
Oh, that's terrific. So now I briefly touched on this. So the pandemic has really impacted, it's impacted everybody, I guess, right? And it's impacted your personal life as well. Is there anything about that you'd like to just tell us? Because I think a lot of people can relate, obviously, to their own situation, but sometimes it helps others to hear what others are going through in the duration of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll start kind of in 2018. I lived in Mexico City, and I met my fiance. He lived 3 doors down. And so we had a long distance relationship. I visited Mexico several times. And then around at the end of 2019, we said, okay, let's seal the deal. Let's apply for the fiance visa, move to California so we can get married. And then the pandemic happened in all the middle of that. We actually were very close to having one of our final appointments for him to get the visa granted and to come over. And then the pandemic happened. And I very distinctly remember March 17th, it was St. Patty's Day, 2020. And we were just terrified that we wouldn't be able to see each other because he's not able to travel to the US. He doesn't have a visa to do that. So we knew that the only way that we could be together was for me to come here. And I didn't know, would I be able to work remotely? Because I work as a psychotherapist, that's my bread and butter. I didn't know if my clients would be open for that. We didn't know where we would be staying. His parents live in a small apartment in the city. So it was kind of like, all right, I'm packing up my things and I'm just going to see what happens. And so we went from very happily in a long distance relationship to suddenly being quarantined together. So I would like all the viewers to just stop and think within the first 2 years of your relationship with your current partner, what it might have been like to suddenly
get to know each other really, really well, right?
Really well, yes. And then on top of that, I was still, my Spanish was so I was learning a new language, getting accustomed to just a different culture, and when you're living with somebody every day, you really notice kind of their cultural lens and what the expectations are. And so I remember it was silly things like the dishes, like who's going to do the dishes? And I'm going, I am not doing those dang dishes. And he grew up with a mom who cooked and cleaned and worked and all that stuff. So he's like, well, that's clearly not my responsibility. So it was, now I can look back on it and laugh. I remember calling my mom and be like, Mom, it's the dishes. It's going to be the end of us. But a big thing, one thing that she really reminded me of was think about the cultural differences. Think about what he's used to, what it means for him to be in this relationship, what's important to him based on his culture. And then take a look at your culture and how I raised you as a very, opinionated, feminist, independent woman, and see how maybe that might be rubbing you the wrong way to do a few dishes. So we've since been able to work it out, but I really want to emphasize how, me and my education, it was very, I went to a international school. So it was very familiar for us to always have in our forefront cultural differences, being able to work with people from different cultures, understand that they're going to have a different viewpoint from you. So it's one thing to learn it in a book, and then it's a whole other thing to then be here and go, oh, the way I see things is very, very different. So how can I kind of adjust myself so that I can fit in and be okay here? And it's been wonderful.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And I'm glad you touched on the cultural piece, right? I think it's something that, personally living and, working across 30, I didn't live in 30 countries, but worked across 30 countries, and culture is so important, right? Personally and in business, right? And we'll have a lot of people from different parts of the world that ultimately see this conversation. And sure. Culture is something that, if we have an open, inclusive mindset, we can listen, learn, and, to basically take your mother's advice, right, that she gave you, we can apply that to our own situation, and it works in business quite well as well. I remember working in certain countries, I won't mention them now, but handful of countries, you're walking into the head office building, people can see that you want to get into the lift, as they call it in the UK, or the elevator, as they call it in different parts of the world. But you're running to the elevator, and somebody hits the open door button to let you in before that door closes. And then I've worked in a handful of other countries where they see you running and they're hitting the close button, right? And it's just it's a function of the culture. Right. And it doesn't mean that they're mean. It's just kind of the way that, things happen. And, and another thing is masks. We lived in Asia during the SARS, when SARS was hitting Asia so hard. And we had, for us, we were living in Japan at the time, and it did not really impact Japan, but all around us, if in Asia, somebody catches a cold, they wear a mask, and this didn't just start. This has been something deeply embedded in the culture for a long time. Whereas if you look at Australia, look at the US,
Sure.
look at the UK, boy, you've just got to break an arm and a leg to get people to wear a mask, especially when the pandemic started. So
Sure.
Yeah, I think culture is a big thing, and I appreciate you sharing that, and good luck with the visas. But
yeah,
also
thank
good that the
you.
quarantine helped both of you out a little bit there.
Absolutely. Yep. And I really can't complain. The weather's pretty nice. I call it a perpetual spring around here.
Yeah, hard to
And we
beat that.
get
I've
fresh
seen some of your
tortillas delivered
videos.
to our doors.
Yeah,
So.
that's right. Exactly. Okay. So why don't you tell us, if you could, Megan, if you look at where you're at now and you go back to any point that you'd like to in your adult life or even before, did you design to be a psychotherapist and design to, be where you're at today, or did things kind of happen along the way? A lot of people that watch this program, it's a little bit different because they really want to understand the evolution and what was really behind the person getting where they are today.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So I remember being, well, I guess I can start a little bit in kind of childhood. So I'm very much a performer. So I did lots of theater as a kid. I did a couple of beauty pageants. I really loved I would write plays as a kid that I would just perform to my mom or whoever I would watch. So it's always the communication and performance piece. Being comfortable in front of a camera, in front of an audience has always been big for me. And then very inclined academically. That was where I really focused all of my energy. And so I think as those skills developed, I was then looking at it going into college. Okay, well, do I want to go into something like communications, something performing arts? And my mother, when I was in third grade, she started going to school she went back to school to get her master's. She's a school psychologist. So that was really influential for me to see her. I still remember her on a typewriter at the time. She wrote her entire master's thesis on a typewriter. She had to go to an actual library and check out actual books to do research and all of those things. So I remember as a child, for 3 years, that's how long that her master's program was. It was just really ingrained to me that education is the most important thing ever. Because if I see mom typing away hours of the day and then going, okay, I'm going to school, that I could see how that was very important. So I knew that I wanted to go to school. I knew I wanted to become educated. I knew those things were important. But as I came to different pivotal points in my education, it was really kind of just this one decision that ended up taking me on this different track. So I remember being in junior college, about to transfer to Florida State University, and thinking, okay, well, I could either go communications, or I kind of like that psychology course that I took. I'll just major in psychology. So then I did that, and then I got my bachelor's, and then, oh, well, I guess I can't really do very much with this degree. Oh, I should get a master's or a doctorate. Okay, well, do I want to be a marriage and family therapist, or do I want to be a clinical psychologist? So I had called one of the admissions, spoke to the admission persons at one of the colleges, and I had worked at in a learning center at a school with a few children on the autism spectrum. And I did really well working with them, and I could really kind of grasp what that was all about and what their struggles were and how to help them. So I said, well, I'm interested in working with, children with autism. And she said, oh, that's not marriage and family. You want to go clinical. You need to get your doctorate degree. Okay, I guess I'm getting my doctorate degree in clinical psychology. So I laugh so much because it was just these little nudges of, okay, I guess I'll just do this. I want to go to school anyway. And it turned out to be absolutely the thing that I meant to do. And I really feel like getting my education and getting my degree was only just the beginning. I feel like that really gave me the background and the knowledge and kind of the format or the language to really be able to help people. And now I feel with LinkedIn and with this executive coaching, that now I can bring in the creative aspect and the kind of performance aspect, and being able to help people and bring my message and bring people to me that I can further help in a way that's fun, entertaining, colorful, and bright.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever, again, going back to not where you're at today, but throughout your journey, as you were kind of, what should I say, bolting on these additional credentials as you were informed, well, you need to get this, you need to get that. Did you ever have any doubts that you could do it?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Long story short, totally. So
yeah.
In graduate school, so it was 3 years of coursework. I took an extra year for coursework. So I did 5 years coursework and 2 years of internship. Within the second year, my husband at the time, he was my high school sweetheart. He was my rock. We separated. And that was, two of the hardest things. I was starting graduate school. It was such a grueling program. 18 of us started just in my cohort, and only 6 of us finished. Wow. So it was very, very grueling. And in the middle of that, dealing with separation and divorce and, trying to find out who the heck I was. I think I was 26, 27 at the time. So, I know many people have had.
What kept you going? I mean, that's a lot of turbulence in your life, right?
Family was a big piece of it. I had chosen to go to school very close to where family lived, and my program. It was that school program. It was so ingrained in me of, I got to keep going to school. I was fighting depression. I was fighting anxiety. I was seeing a therapist. I had to start psychotherapy medication or psychotropic medication. I was doing everything I could to just hold on to that program was my stability. And that's that, as well as being able to stay with family and have them to lean on, really is what got me through.
Yeah. Do you think I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. A lot of people are struggling right now today, right? And a lot of it's related to the pandemic. Some of it's not, but most of it is, right? Anything that you learned back then when you were going through all of this turbulence that you would apply to somebody that is just feeling that, oh goodness, this just probably is never going to end? Here comes another variant, right? I'm stuck at home. What do you tell them?
I would say talk to someone about it. If you have a friend, if you have a family member, let them know how you're feeling. If you can afford it, I would say see a psychotherapist or a counselor. What I hear from many people in my personal life when I'm not psychotherapizing them, and when I'm just saying, hey, what do you think about therapy? A lot of people say it's not going to help. I know what they're going to say. And, they're just going to tell me to do this, that, and the other thing. But therapy really is so much more. It's really being heard and having somebody be present with you and be on that journey with you, and somebody who is going to be there for you and hold you in unconditional positive regard, no matter what you say, no matter what you feel. There are many people who come to me needing therapy who say, oh, this is going to sound really crazy. And I say, I bet not. I bet I've heard it before. It's probably going to sound like a very common struggle or a very common thought. And usually it is something that I've heard many, many times. And people really feel like they're alone out there. People believe that they're the only ones who have these thoughts, or the only ones that feel a certain way. And the truth is that's just not true. And there's a therapist out there, there's a friend out there, there's somebody out there who can listen and say, yeah, I get it. You may be hurting. I may not be able to stop your hurt, but you're not alone.
Yeah. So let's, there's a lot of situations out there where maybe an individual doesn't. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions on this. Maybe you could give what I think will be impactful advice, right? So there's a situation where the person knows they need some help, but they don't know what to do. What should they do?
Right.
They don't know. Let's say they can't afford, to go to the local doctor. What other avenues, what other options do they have?
So there are a lot of free resources out there. Many people have access to the internet in some way, whether it's on their phone or computer or that kind of thing. So there are some national resources. So there are like national hotlines that you can call where people are available. Some of those hotlines have text where you can text them and say, hey, I'm in crisis, or I'm feeling sad about something, and they can text you back and have a conversation with you. Another option is many county mental health places, and I'm talking just in the US. I don't know it's available in other countries, but many county mental health places will take things like Medi-Cal, Medicare, so that it's of free cost to people. And sometimes even if you don't have insurance, they can take you on as somebody to talk to. Many of them have also crisis lines. So I used to work at a county crisis mental health place. And so we would answer the phone. That was part of what we did. And we would just talk to the person and see if we could help them figure things out. And that was free of cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah, maybe afterwards you and I can work together, and we can provide some of these resources to at
Absolutely.
least those in the US. Now, if you're not in the US, and most of you watching this are not, okay, and I do realize that. So if you don't know what to do, reach out on this platform. That's all I can tell you. And then we'll do our best to point you in the right direction. Okay. You reach out to me. Okay. And I'll do my best to point you in the right direction for your country. It's going to involve everybody being resourceful, which is really what LinkedIn is all about anyway. So that's that. Now, another scenario, Megan. So let's say that somebody is, doesn't know they need help, but their employer or their work colleagues or even their family knows that they need some help, right? They just see them struggling and that type of thing. What's the best way to approach that situation to get them help?
If you're the employer or the family member?
If you're the employer or the colleague or the family member, what's the best way to
Sure.
get them help, but the person doesn't realize that they need help.
Right. So I would say it depends on your relationship with them and what you know as far as how open they are to feedback. One thing that really helps is to be able to find a common ground with facts, meaning if you can present them with some facts of, hey, here's a time that we can both agree that this did not work for you. And they can see, oh, yeah, when I got so angry at that person that I just stomped out and slammed the door behind me, that didn't work because then I got written up. So it might take, say, starting off with that fact of, we know this thing happened. We know this did not go so well for you. And then be able to kind of go from there with that conversation of whether it's, are you open to some feedback to help prevent that from happening again? Or, do you have any worries about how how that behavior is going for you from here on out? And really taking the approach of being on that person's team, not so much the approach of you have a problem, you need to change, more of the curiosity and saying, hey, how did this work out for you? they will probably say, right, not so great. And then just going from there as far as how open they are to either you helping or to somebody else helping.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Okay, great. Now let's talk briefly about sleep.
Sure.
And the importance of sleep. And, I know we can't boil the ocean on this program, but sure, tell us why you embarked upon this journey to do 90 videos on how to get a better night's sleep.
Sure. So this actually started when I myself went through a long period of burnout. And so this is when I was working at the autism clinic that you had mentioned when you introduced me. So I was doing 4 10-hour shifts there. I was seeing clients 1 day a week through a private psychotherapy practice. I was studying on the weekends for the licensing exam, the biggest exam of my life. And I was living with somebody who suffered from PTSD and depression and alcoholism. So you can say I was under a little bit of stress.
Yeah.
And
Just
it
a
just
little
got
bit. Yep.
just a little bit. And it wasn't until later when I started putting the pieces together that I realized I wasn't getting good sleep. I was not taking care of my body as far as eating goes, or as far as exercising goes. I was not balancing things out very well. And so I burnt out, and I actually, I had just gone to work one day, and it was like somebody flipped a switch, and I just lost all my energy. My body was heavy. Usually I'm very vivacious. You can see all of my facial expressions.
Yes.
And I was just not myself. And I kept trying to work for maybe about a month and still studying for the exam. I was sleeping more hours than I was awake. I went to the doctor. They said, it's just stress. You just need to rest. I was tearful at work. I thought I was losing my mind. I did not know what the heck was going on. So I had to go on stress leave. I ended up having to quit my job. I miraculously somehow passed the exam that I was studying for within all of that. But that was one of the lowest points of my life. I didn't know if I'd be able to work again, and years of trying to get to the finish line of having my degree, having my license. And here I was not able to operate at all. So I kept fighting. I kept trying to find answers. I did all sorts of things. I was in psychotherapy. I tried medication. I did a ketamine infusion in Colorado before it was such a bit more of a thing here in California. I tried all these things to see psychologically what was going on with me, because if it was stress, and that meant it was psychological. And then one day my mom had asked me, because I had to move back in with my mom. I couldn't work, or at least not as much. And she said, do you think maybe you're a little hormonally challenged right now, which is women speak for that, our time of the month. And it dawned on me, I said, hormones. I haven't looked into that. And so I went and saw an endocrinologist, and I learned about the very intricate kind of interweavings of hormones and how that relates to nutrition, how that relates to your ability to sleep, how that relates to your ability to wake up in the morning, to be able to exercise and have it work for you, to have it be worth your while. And so I just embarked on this huge journey of research. I learned about the gut-brain axis and how if you're eating foods that cause inflammation in the body, that causes you to be depressed, that causes you to be anxious. And so I found out that my psychological problem was mostly physiological. On top of that, I did a sleep study, and I realized I had sleep apnea. I wasn't breathing at night. So I remember when I did the sleep study, and I woke up and, the next day, and the technician said, about how many times do you think you woke up in the night? I said, I think it was a pretty good night. I think I only woke up like maybe 3 times. And he said, you had an average of 41 episodes per hour.
Oh my goodness.
So that's me stopping breathing or struggling to breathe. And I might not have been, conscious and remembering it, but that wakes you up. So no wonder why I was a zombie all the time. My hormones are out of whack. I wasn't getting any sleep. I wasn't eating very well. So my gut was all crazy. So long story short, through all of that, I came up with my sleep pyramid program, which is putting together these 6 factors that research shows are really detrimental to your health if you don't have them, if you don't prioritize them every day. And that's what my 90 videos in 90 days have been, is 6 out of the 7 days of the week has been, talking about how one of those factors influences your sleep. So of course, sleep is one of them, but then there's also movement and standing. There's nutrition and hydration. There's connection, right? Having meaningful connection with other people, mindfulness, or having some sort of meaningful connection with your source. And I added in achievement, which can be as easy as, making your bed in the day. It could be completing your work day, could be doing something creative. But I think if we prioritize those things, and if sleep is on the base of that pyramid, if that's one of your main kind of foundational things, and then you prioritize the other, 2, and then the top one, that's going to make a world of difference in how you are able to get through your day, in your mental health, in your productivity. And that's kind of my journey as to what brought me to create this program and really be behind it.
Yeah. You know, what I loved about what you said is that you've been through many of the struggles that many people have, and now you're helping so many thousands. I mean, I know for a fact you're helping thousands of people now with this. And I tell you, I learned something this morning before this. So I not only do my homework for this program, but I watch you every day. And I know you know that, but melatonin, don't be taking those supplements, you know, at night, because you don't need to, because your body produces those, right? I learned that today. Right. I didn't know that until this morning. Now,
so melatonin, can help you feel sleepier sooner. Yeah. But if you're, you know, if you're jet lagged or whatnot, and you're going, oh, I'm going to pop some melatonin and sleep, it doesn't work that way. But there's so many misconceptions as to what's helpful, what's not. And we're just wasting our time and money. So to me, it's like, well, I can just put out some good content of things that I know are helpful because I've lived through it and research supports it. So, hey, why not?
Exactly. And, you know, I'm not really a believer in supplements, but now I know that in the future, I'm going to be mindful of this because I heard you talk about it. Right. And this is an example that I just, for all the people that are watching this, we'll see it on replay, on how you can leverage this platform to better yourselves. And that can range on anything from learning about technology transformation to getting a good night's sleep and taking care of your health and recovering. I think we just heard Megan talked about how she used a lot of this stuff in her own expertise to recover herself after having personally gone through a lot of trauma, right? From different life events. And we all go through it. You know, you're human, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody's human, right?
At the end of the day, I'm human. Absolutely. That's why I like to tell people, I say, you know, before I was a psychologist, I was human.
Yeah. I mean, we all have nobody's perfect, right? And I think all you have to do is look at a lot of, I'll just pick out of the random Hollywood famous people and ask yourself, are they really happy? Right. You read about all this stuff and, you know, so it's not necessarily the perfect life. Right. So we all have our own life to live. We have to take care of ourselves. There is expertise out there that can help. Megan, how can people get hold of you? What's the best way to get hold of you?
So LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, you can, certainly shoot me a message.
That's the easy way.
I also have, that's the easiest way. Yep. And then I also have drmeganrhodes.com is my website. So that's where you can find out information about executive coaching, my SAS CEO summit, my psychiatry summit, and coaching, psychotherapy, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Now, one thing really quick, 60 seconds. Tell us about your 6-week program.
That's going. Yep. So that's the 6-week individual coaching program where we meet once a week, one-on-one. And then there's also modules for you to go through on your own. It's an accelerated program. So it's teaching you how to make small, impactful changes in your daily life within those 6 areas that I mentioned earlier, so that you can get a good night, a good sleep, for a better tomorrow.
Wow, that was 30 seconds.
Woo, I'm good.
Yeah, that's right. The marketeer here. Good. Now, I kind of have a parting question, and we're really running short on time. But what advice would you have for men to better support women in the work environment?
I love this question. So I would say being open and really listening, really valuing what a woman has to say. You know, we talked about, cultural differences and diversity. So even if you and that woman are from the same country, the same culture, a similar upbringing, she's going to have a different and very valued perspective. Even just being socialized in the way that a woman is socialized, given her culture, given her era, given her family of origin, she's going to have a very valuable opinion that may be very different from your own. So I would say listening, taking that into consideration, and really involving that in whatever decision-making powers you may have.
And would your answer change at all if I were to just say, instead of women, ethnicity? what, let's say women supporting, just put a different filter on it, right? Where it's not just gender.
I would say the same thing, that what they have been through in their lives, what their cultural values are, that's going to add a unique perspective that is not only very needed, but that can put you ahead of your competition. If you have somebody looking at the same problem through a different lens, through different experiences, that's just going to give you another leg up to be able to solve that problem, probably faster, probably more efficient.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And, the point here is to be open, right? Be open, regardless of your gender, your ethnicity, your race. Be open, right? Be inclusive, listen, and connect, engage with, everybody's a human being, right? So do that, and life will be better for everybody. Consider others' feelings, when you're taking decisions. I was up early this morning writing about that. So think about the impact that what you decide, either in business or in your personal life, the impact that a decision that you make today will have on other people, and think about how that's implemented as well. I think that's important. We have, we're about out of time. We have Joe Gonzalez from Florida that's asked, what is sleep? So we're not gonna, we know that he doesn't sleep very much, but he probably should get more sleep. What do you advise the person?
He probably should.
What do you advise the person that gets 4 hours sleep at night?
Right. So it's, again, that answer of depends, right? So it depends on what is causing their 4 hours of sleep. Is it somebody who has to run off of adrenaline, and so they have to keep themselves going so they can keep up with the pace? Is it somebody who, is a single working mom and they have young children and they're, waking up at all hours of the night to take care of them, or to, get up and work? So there are some pieces that may be out of your control, but there are some pieces that are within your control. So you can try to go to bed at a consistent time and wake up at a consistent time, even if it's the weekend. You can make sure that your sleeping environment is nice and cool. People tend to sleep better at about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I think, about 18 degrees Celsius. And having things as dark and quiet as you possibly can, having some sort of a wind down routine before you go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Should they listen to music when they're sleeping?
Again, that depends on if that's helpful for you.
So it's not off the list.
It could.
If it's helpful,
it's not off
okay.
the list. No, unless you're my fiance and you think heavy metal relaxes you, then in that case, absolutely not.
Yeah, definitely not. Good. I'd like to just acknowledge Celia Daniels. Thank you so much for joining us today. Douglas Scott McAlpin, thank you for joining, and my friend Alicia Ali from Brussels, Greater Brussels, has joined as well live. And I think we're about out of time. It just flew by. So
it did.
At any rate, Megan, thank you so much for coming on the program. And it's always just a delight to have a chat with you. And I know that there was a lot of very useful information that will positively impact people's lives that see this. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you also to all the viewers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll provide some information. Megan and I work together, and we'll provide some information on how to easily connect with her, and as well as some other information that we talked about during the course of this. So with that, we're going to sign off. There is a special edition of the Packard Network Live that's going to be happening tomorrow. And the cameras are going to shift to one of my favorite places in the world, where many of the world's diamonds come from, Botswana. So I'll be speaking with a great individual. You can hear all about him, Thabo, who I had the opportunity to work with many years ago in that part of the world. And he's a fascinating individual from a beautiful country, beautiful people in Botswana. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again in about 24 hours. So we'll look forward to that. And